Hi, friends. So happy you could be with us today. I'm Sav.
I'm Jess, and welcome to And a Diet Soda, episode 18 Fitness, Dancing, and Finding Ourselves Through Experience and Education.
Hey, welcome to your local fast food chain. Can I take your order?
Yeah, can I get a double cheeseburger, large fries, some tots, and I guess a diet soda?
Hi, it's Sav and Jess. Welcome to And a Diet Soda, an opportunity for people to celebrate their successes, share their failures, and hopefully give a little advice on all things relatable along the way.
This community is for appreciating the little things and fostering positive mindsets and intuitive thoughts by talking to people, because chances are they've been through it too.
Today, we are going to be talking about dancing, nutrition, fitness, all the self love through a very hectic and chaotic lifestyle on the path to becoming a PA. So, we're really excited to have our guest today.
Yeah, so today our guest is Wehbe Lee. She can be found on Instagram at WEHBELEE16, which will also be in the show notes. We're so excited to have you today. She was a dancer her entire life. She's now a personal trainer, a group fitness trainer. She earned her bachelor's degree in kinesiology and is now on her way to becoming a physician assistant. So welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you guys. So excited to be here.
So we're just going to
That's
jump into the
awesome.
questions we have. Jess is going to start. We're really stoked about your entire life story.
Yeah. I'm really curious. So what kind of dancer were you? You were a dancer your entire life. I just kind of want to hear all about that and what that looked like, and kind of how you stopped doing that and how it's still in your life.
Yeah, so basically, since I could walk, I've been dancing. I started when I was 2 years old, and it wasn't really dancing at that point, but jumping around. But yeah, so that kind of set the foundation, continued it all through middle school and high school, and a little bit into college. We can get into that. But yeah, that kind of set the foundation for my fitness because, especially as I got older, dance got more intense, and fitness became more of kind of a priority in terms of I wanted to excel as a dancer, and that was a huge component of that. And so I quit all the other sports I was doing in middle school to focus on dance. I danced in the Nutcracker in our local production of the Nutcracker for I think 10 or 11 years.
Wow.
And went to New York for some dance intensives over the summer, which was so much fun. Yeah, and then in college, I wanted to keep dance a part of my life because that was kind of just this huge part of my identity. And the first 2 years, I just took some dance classes just for fun. It was nowhere near as intense as it had been, especially in the last couple years of high school. And year 3 and 4, I kind of fell away from it because with the pre-med, pre-PA track, you get pretty busy. There's a lot of classes. I also switched my majors halfway through college. So I was playing catch up in terms of major requirements and just kind of it had to take a back seat to all the other things that I was trying to pursue. And I really missed it so much because it was such a huge part of my identity. And I realized that that was how I got my exercise is I was dancing so much. And I didn't really, it was one of those things where it was kind of mindless exercise because I was doing something that I loved and I never really had to really think too much outside of that, aside from a couple workouts a week. And so, yeah, I definitely missed it. I felt like there was this part missing that had been a part of me for so long. And that's where I found AKT, which is Anna Kaiser Technique. That's the group fitness that I teach right now. And it's dance-based fitness. A lot of it is. So that was kind of like the perfect combination for me coming from a kinesiology major and then missing dance. It just kind of all fell into place so perfectly.
Cool. Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. I think that a lot of athletes struggle with that, especially like if you're really competitive in high school, because you forget how intense that was. I forget all the time that it was practices every day for 2 hours, games, weekends, everything. You're so active. Your metabolism is higher when you're young.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden you get to college and it's like, well, bam, freshman 20, 30, 40. Like it's so
like a freight train, let me tell you.
yeah.
Yeah, you're not alone in that. I actually played softball through high school, had some injuries and traumatic brain injuries, and you just lose a part of yourself, it feels like, when you're just unable to continue whatever your sport may be. It's something I feel like is not talked about enough, especially if you grow up doing it and that's kind of just part of your identity. You're like, wait, who am I now? Like, what
Right.
do
And there's
I?
like not any like easing out of it. It's like, well, up through high school, it was like all your life. I mean, I spent weekends at rehearsals, dancing, everything. And then all of a sudden it was just gone. And so there was like no really transition between that, which made it super difficult. I mean, in terms of identity, I was like, well, what do I do now? I've always been a dancer. Everybody's always known me as a dancer. What next?
Okay, so you're currently a certified personal trainer and you're studying to become a physician's assistant. So, what drew you to that profession with everything that you've experienced with dance and your major with kinesiology?
Yeah, so a little background, my dad is an orthopedic surgeon. He specializes in sports medicine. And so I grew up kind of hearing him talk about it. And I've always known that I wanted to do something in healthcare. I have always loved science. That was always like my best subject. And I had a really bad knee injury in high school that required emergency surgery. I had to get a lot of reconstruction done around my knee. And so just kind of living through the recovery process of that was really huge, played a really huge role in that. And then just with dance, and we can also get into this too, in terms of restricting and certain borderline eating disorders, there's a lot of issues with bone density and everything. So just dealing with that, dealing with my knee issues, and then going and getting a degree in kinesiology and having all this information that I didn't have before. I was like, well, this is so cool because I have this information about fitness and nutrition. And I also, went to college, knowing, sorry, I wanted to be in healthcare. So I took all the pre-health requirements. And so I had all this information and it was all coming together. And I was like, this would be really, really cool to kind of pull from both. And so my dream would be to go to PA school and then open some sort of clinic where it's like you have the healthcare, but you also have the more non-invasive healthcare. So like I could bring in what I know from personal training and how it affects bones and muscles and say, well, let's try this non-invasive approach. And then like, we'll talk about surgery or whatever else we need. So that's like my goal, is to kind of like mix the two of them together. We'll see how that goes. But I love just the idea of pulling from different areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's so much that goes into it. There's so many different factors that people forget about. So I think that's really great that you have this sort of umbrella approach and umbrella idea of what you want for your practice. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I've seen so many. So I've shadowed in a bunch of different clinics, and a lot of the times patients come in and they're not even really interested in what's wrong. They just want like the fastest solution that they can get. And I think it would be cool. I mean, I think that's partly because they don't have the information and they don't have the education of why is this happening and what can I do to either resolve it or, preventative measures. And I think it would be cool as a physician's assistant, healthcare provider, to give that information first and then be there as a solution, if worse comes to worse, that doesn't work. So
I love that we talk so much about like the holistic approach to healthcare, and with the people who do just want the quick approach, it's just hard. I'm like, throughout my experience throughout healthcare, I'm just like, there are people like that, and it doesn't really, they have to be ready. Like they have to be at that place in their life. And so I totally get what you're saying, but I think there's so many people like wanting that more holistic approach now too, and especially with exercise and nutrition. So don't give up. You will absolutely do it. You can change so many people's lives with that. If it's okay with you, we'd love to talk a little bit about you mentioned the disordered eating or borderline eating disorder with dance. Yeah, whatever you'd love to share about that, we would definitely.
Absolutely. I'm an open book. I love to use this as kind of, listen to my mistakes so that you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. So it started in middle school, which is horrible because I was so young, but I have never, so I'm 5'1", I'm very short, and being a ballerina, it's hard, especially when you get, preteen, teenager years, to not fall into that comparison trap of just being a teenage girl. And especially it gets even worse when you're thrown into a culture like the dance culture, which obviously stereotypes, long, skinny legs, really tall, your typical ballerina body. And I just didn't meet any of those kind of stereotypes. And as I got older and became more aware of body image and the other girls in my dance classes, I definitely started restricting my food, and it got really bad to the point where my parents were like, we're gonna have to pull you out of school, like this is getting really bad. My parents are both doctors, so they like put the hammer down. They knew what was going on, and they were like, we're not gonna let this happen. And I'm really grateful that they did that, because I think, if it had gone on too long, I would have had serious health consequences later on in life. And so in high school, I kind of slowly turned it around, and I was still, even though I was eating better, I was still trying to compensate in other ways. So when I wasn't dancing, I was in the gym and I wasn't lifting. I was running on the treadmill. I was doing all sorts of crazy cardio, just to try to like attain that ideal ballet body image. And obviously I had to come to terms with the fact that genetically I'm never going to have that. I need to focus on taking care of my body, and the healthier I am, the better I will be at dancing. That's kind of the name of the game. If my bones are too weak, if I don't have any muscle, I'm not going to be the best dancer that I could be. So that was kind of like the mentality shift there. And I was still, I didn't get into weights until way later. So I was still doing cardio and excessive amounts of cardio, but definitely that was kind of the mentality behind the nutrition shift. Was I need to start fueling my body better. That's how I'm going to be the best dancer. So.
Wow. Yeah, we appreciate you sharing that with us. I mean, it's sad to say, but like you said, the younger girls usually are the ones who are targeted with that. And I feel like so many people experience that. So we appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah, like I said, if I can get it out there that, you're not alone, but
yeah,
we gotta deal with this.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So what did that look like for you? Because of course you had this great support system with your parents, which is fantastic that they were so supportive with that and recognized it and were like, no, this is not happening. But how easy was it to come to terms with it for yourself when you realized that this is not going to be good for me? This is not happening.
Yeah, so it was not easy. My parents were incredibly supportive, but I definitely fought back in the beginning. I was like, you don't understand. My mom was a dancer, but she didn't go very far. And I was like, you don't understand. You never made it this far in dance. Like, it had like kind of infiltrated my mental health there of like, well, I'm never going to be good enough. I had like all this body dysmorphia of, like if I don't look like this girl who's 6 inches taller than me, and I'm like, it's just not ever gonna happen, then I'm not gonna be a good dancer. And then, I had to realize I had to find other things that brought me joy, and then kind of think of, it took the pressure off of dance as the end all be all, and more of like, okay, I started going out with friends. Like I never went out to eat with friends because I didn't want to go out to eat at those restaurants. Like I wanted to be very much in control of everything. I started going out. I actually wrote my college admissions essay on like eating disorders and how kind of fighting the stereotypes of ballet and all those things. So definitely it was not just like a quick day thing. It was a long process, and I was in therapy for it. So it's something that you definitely have to fight all the time, especially in the beginning. I mean, now I have a lot more information, so I know better, but I think that was another thing, is I just didn't have information. And everybody harps on diet culture, but it's true that they feed you this information, and as a young girl, I mean, you're just going to take that and run with it. And I did. And
and knowledge is power. I mean, what finally gets through to a lot of people, I think, isn't this isn't good for you, this isn't good for your body. It's what you were talking about with bone density, heart disease, all of these really serious factors that I think a lot of people need to put in perspective to get their butt into gear and start.
It's like it's not good for you, and they can just kind of brush you off. But you can say, well, here are X, Y, and Z reasons why it's not good for you. Here's what can happen, and that kind of hopefully hits a different way for people. So
yeah. So what is it for me? Like I said, I played softball. I totally get what you're saying. Every single position on that field had a different body type standard, which was wild to me. But I was a pitcher, and I also would play first base, and those are supposed to be these tall, skinny, lanky girls that, like, you were just tall and skinny, you would get the ball to the catcher who was a completely different body type. But I'm it was such a huge part of who I was, like we were talking about earlier. How does it impact you? Because I know how it impacts me. And so, like, I still, like, will walk past a softball field and be like, wow, I spent more time on a softball field than I have literally in anything else in my life. Like, I don't it's no longer a part of my life, but I still miss it. So what is that like for you? How were you able to kind of come to terms with, like, it was a part of you and it helped you grow as a person, but it's not really a part of your life anymore?
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, I was in the dance studio 98% of my life especially in high school. All my summers were spent at dance intensives and everything. And I definitely, had a very small class, and oftentimes there would be parties and different class activities that the majority of the class would go to, and I wouldn't, whether it was because I didn't want to be presented with, you know, unhealthy foods. I was at rehearsal, I was at an audition. Um, and then when I got to college, it all fell away. I had an option to have a social life. And I think that's where a lot of things went, um, not, I don't want to say went south, but just went kind of crazy because I had all this freedom. But now, in terms of accepting that dance is, for the most part, in my past, I kind of come to terms with it by, taking kind of the foundation from dance and leading it into my life. Like, obviously dance taught me discipline. It was the reason, one of the reasons that I studied kinesiology is because of the challenges that I overcame because of dance, and I wanted to prevent or do what I could to help prevent that in other people. And it's funny because there are physical parts of dance that I will always take with me. I mean, I see, I'll be just sitting on the couch and like pointing my feet, and somebody's like, "Oh my God, your feet are so arched and everything." And it's funny because everybody's like, "Oh, you were definitely a dancer," and that's fun. It's like nostalgic for me because they can tell, like, posture wise and just different things like that. So that's kind of fun that people can still be like, dancers identify other dancers. And with my group training now, it's not classical dance like what I was primarily trained in high school. It's a lot of hip hop and kind of poppy dance, but it's still fun. I mean, you still get to count music. I still get to choreograph things. And I never got to teach dance to anybody. So this has kind of like been a new challenge for me, as I was always the one being taught the choreography, and now I'm the one teaching the choreography. So it's kind of, I look at it as a new challenge. I get to take what I had in dance in high school, and I get to apply it to different things now.
That's great. Yeah, I have one more question bouncing off that. So it's awesome how you're able to, like, take that and transition it into your life, because my question was, you were an athlete your entire life, and I feel like so many people can resonate with that. We grow up playing these sports, and, like, we were athletes, and now we might feel like we can't identify with that word, that just because we don't play this one sport, we're not an athlete. But maybe we take it into something like personal training, or maybe we spend our time in the gym or doing yoga or running, whatever it may be. As a personal trainer, can we talk about athletes and what that entails, and how we can still identify ourselves as that, just because we might not be playing that sport anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I take so much, I mean, from dance. I mean, core strength, upper body strength. I mean, all of those things, even though I'm not explicitly using them for ballet now, I use them for a ton of other things. I mean, I primarily weightlift now, so that's like a huge thing. I don't do core specific workouts, but core strength is so important to me, and it's important to maintain that. And then, I still, not in a restrictive way, but more in like a what's going to promote me towards my goals way, have a focus on nutrition. And I do, it's a completely different focus than what it was in high school, but it's still a part of my life. And I do train athletes, which is really cool because I get to live kind of vicariously through them. And so I kind of get to hear their stories, their experiences, and then, sometimes I get to share my stories, and like I said, take kind of the mistakes that I made, share them with other people in the hopes that they can take that and not make the same mistakes that I did. Like maybe they make mistakes, but they're different mistakes, and they can kind of, yeah, not waste the time that I did on the silly things.
Yeah, that's so easy to say, and it's so frustrating when you're like, I'm sure like Sav and I have talked about this before, like we're talking about our parents and how they didn't just like shake us when we were kids, because it's going to be so frustrating to watch friends or family members or children one day grow up and be making these mistakes and be like, no, I tried that and it totally didn't work out.
Like it absolutely backfired. Take my word for this one. Do not do that.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that you have the skills to like take those core values, like you were talking about with what dance has given you, the discipline, the competitiveness, the drive, all of these really important values that make you who you are, and you redirected them. So you're still the same person. You still have that same mentality, just healthier.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's important. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm always going to be an advocate for kids playing a sport or joining even a club if they don't want to, like just doing something that teaches them, like these were such vital skills to learn at a young age. Like it really does. I'm not going to compare myself to anybody in my life, but I've noticed some real differences in characteristics if like you were put into a position where like you're in a sport, or maybe you were in debate or whatever, science club, whatever it is. Like these are all ways to teach these really important life lessons and skills that we need for the rest of our lives.
Right. Like, I mean, ballet taught me, like, if, for better or for worse, if I wanted something, I'm going to go get it. And I need to do it the right way. But yeah, it was kind of like, determination and drive. And I think, like you said, you get that from anything. I think it's so important to have kids and especially teenagers immersed in that.
Yeah. So as a person who I would consider, and I think you would consider yourself recovered as well, but it's always a journey. It's always a process. What does that look like for you now as you're looking at your nutrition and your workouts and everything? Does it still affect you? Do you sometimes get like flashbacks, like I'm doing too much cardio, I'm not eating enough? Like how does that relationship look like for you?
Yeah. So I don't want to say that I'm like fully recovered or anything, because I feel like with that you never truly fully recover, and you always have to be kind of a little bit on your guard, just because that is a mental thing and it's easy to kind of fall back into that trap. But I would say the biggest thing for me now is having the education and the information of like, well, when that part of my brain comes in that's like, oh, you need to not eat, or you don't eat that cookie or whatever, the kind of logical side of it is like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You have this information that tells you that thought is stupid. Like you don't need to think that way. And I think just making sure that logic takes priority. Like I said, between my major and my certification, I know so much more than I did then, and now it's just completely different. I don't do cardio other than my group fitness classes, which is my job. So obviously I'm going to do it then, but my own workouts are all weight training. And I approach food as, first of all, a life without good food is not a life that I want to be a part of. So I approach food as fun, as a social activity, but also how can I eat best to fuel my body and to progress towards my individual goals? That might not be the next person's goals, right? But I'm trying to get stronger. Right now I'm trying to put on muscle. And so obviously I'm eating more than maybe I usually do. And, when my brain says, oh, maybe you need to stop, whatever, it's like, okay, well, the logical part is like, you need this is necessary. And you know exactly why and how it works. So yeah, I guess kind of like separation of church and state there between like emotion and logic, and having, like, I sound like a broken record here, just having the information.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And people listening, like it's much more calories than you think as a logical fuel for your body. Like you may think that you know exactly how much, but it's also just guidelines too. Like it's always better to go over than under. Your body needs it. It's very surprising how much, but
in high school,
everything you've been taught in the past. Yeah.
In high school, I was like a stickler for the 1,200 calorie thing that like literally is enough for a toddler. Like that's the toddler's daily recommendation. And I was like, I would just have so much self-loathing if I went over that. Now I'm eating 25 to 2,800 calories, and it's like, I cannot imagine eating less than that. Like it's so great. And I have reached more goals and grown, in the way that I want to physically faster and more, efficiently than I ever did. So definitely take my word for it. To anyone out there who's eating 1,200 calories, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a little bit about the bone density aspect that you talked about earlier, which I'm sure you know a little bit about, not only through your education, but from your parents. There's so much research in how important lifting weights is for your bone density, way more than calcium intake in your diet or anything. I mean, it's crazy. So I remember you saying that you kind of, felt that when you were dancing. What is that? What do you feel like now? And what have you learned about how important weight training is for your bone density and just like your overall health and how you feel?
Yeah, like I said, I feel better and stronger than I ever did. I mentioned I had knee surgery in high school, and that was kind of like the big, horrible, traumatic event. But over my life, I've had knee issues, I have joint issues, and that's just kind of, I was born with weak ligaments, and I've just kind of had to deal with that. And especially my dad being an orthopedic surgeon, he was always like, well, you need to really work to build up your muscles so that your bones aren't taking all the strain. And so that was like this huge thing. And with my knees, he was always like, build up your quad strength, build up your quad strength. And I kind of took that, and I never really asked why, because I was always like, okay, Dad, like, enough. But then when I learned the science behind it, I was like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. So yeah, and like I said, all I do on my own now is lifting, and I feel like I have more energy. I can eat more. I mean, my metabolism is just through the roof because I have muscle on me now, which I didn't always have. And I haven't had any knee issues since I started lifting. My kneecap used to pop out of place at least once a month, and it hasn't since I started. I've been lifting for 2 years and haven't had a knee issue, knock on wood. But yeah, and there's nothing that I want to do that I can't do, which is like a huge thing for me. It's like, I never want to be presented with something that I want, that my mind wants to, but that my body can't do, whether it's like trying to haul in all my $300 worth of groceries in one trip from the car, or it's like setting a PR in the gym, like different things. I never want to find something that I can't physically do. And if I do, then I'm like, all right, it's time to work towards that.
What a beautiful sentence. That was fantastic. I just want that like written on my wall. Screw live, laugh, love. Like, I need that.
That's like, yeah, that's like my mantra. I'm like, okay.
That's actually a great segue into this question. So how are you able to stay mindful throughout the chaos in your life? I mean, you're doing all these things, you're trying to take care of yourself, trying to lift weights, you're trying to eat healthy, and then you're also trying to become a PA. Like, where are you in that stage? How does that look? How do you do it?
So it's funny because I literally said this to my boyfriend yesterday. We were in this conversation, and I had gotten back from vacation. I was overwhelmed with all the stuff that I had to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to control what I can control. And I'm going to focus on controlling what I can control. All the other things, will take a back seat, because I feel better when I am like checking things off. I'm doing things that I am, like I said, in control of. And so for health and fitness, there are a lot of times where I have so many classes where it wouldn't be physically reasonable for me to do like a workout. And so instead it's like, okay, well, let me stretch, or let me foam roll, or anything like that. And I'm taking organic chemistry right now to satisfy prereq. That is a horrible demonic class.
PTSD.
Yeah.
I have to take it. I have to take it this year.
I took it once and it went terribly, and so I'm taking it again. Oh, but it's like, okay, well, let me.
I retook it.
Oh my God.
It's horrible.
Will you be my study buddy? Can I call you in like 6 months when I have to take it?
Okay, well, honestly, I'm convinced that none of this stuff is real, and that's my problem. It's not real. There's no way anyone could see this or know this is real. Why am I studying it right now?
Dude, for real.
But yeah, just kind of prioritizing what is in my control. And my mom always says, be still. Just sometimes you just have to be still. And in terms of PA school, I applied last year. I didn't get in, got denied from every single one, not even an interview. And I could be beat up about that, but I could also say, well, because I didn't get into PA school, I was allowed to start my business. I was allowed to form relationships with clients. I've made amazing friends here. Like the after college friend group here has been amazing. And also kind of thinking back to that logical thinking of like, I am young. PA school is 2 years, or, insert whatever. It's not the rest of your life. You have time. Kind of be still in the moment that you're in right now. And for me, that is training clients, that is nurturing relationships, and that is building my business. And I am at peace with that right now. I love what I'm doing right now. PA school will happen when it's going to happen. And in the time being, I can, grind it out and do whatever I can do to make sure that it happens. And then leave it up to however it's supposed to unfold. And it's taken me a long time to come to peace with that. But I have, and it's much, much better mentality wise.
Good. Yes. You're right. It's so much better mentality wise. I see everywhere all the time on like workout TikTok and like all these really great motivated people that are awesome. But I hate it when people say like, just do it no matter how tired you are, just get to the gym, just get there. And I'm like, look, people work full time, they have kids are exhausting, like it's friends, you need a social life, like sometimes you're just too tired. And I love that mentality. Like what do you tell yourself, and what do you tell people when it's like, I didn't go to the gym it's been 10 days or whatever. Like sometimes it's not even just 3 days. Sometimes it's a long time. Like
last week,
how do you, yeah.
I mean, it's perfect example. Last week, I took all of last week off from lifting. The weekend before, I went to a bachelorette party, and that was shambly as all get out. And I just came back feeling not like myself, had the best time, but definitely needed it's amazing. After college, you need 3 to 5 business days to recover from one night out.
Yeah.
And I definitely needed that. And like I said, I came back and I was overwhelmed with a lot of work that I had to do, work that I'm grateful that I had to do, but still had to get done. And it was overwhelming. And then I was also teaching my fitness classes. And, Monday, we got back Sunday night. Monday through Wednesday was a struggle to get through these fitness classes. I mean, I was not feeling like myself. And I obviously didn't eat like I usually eat I had amazing food, but definitely not what I usually eat. And so it was kind of like, I need to give myself grace. I need to give myself patience. Your body is an adaptive machine. It will get back on track. You need to let it get back on track. And if I had come back and done all these fitness classes, stayed up late, working on things that I had to get done, and then try to work out on my own. I mean, my lifts are pretty intense. So if I had tried to do that on top of everything, I feel like I would have just been digging myself into a deeper hole, instead of okay, 1 week is not going to kill you. Let your body recover, get back on a good nutrition, density kind of thing, and get back after it. And so I actually wasn't planning on starting until tomorrow back with my lifts, but today I woke up and my body was like, let's do it. It was craving it. And I was like, that's because I gave myself a rest. I let myself recover, and I woke up and I was like, let's go freaking grind it out. And it was awesome. I had a great lift.
Yes, let's talk about rest now, since you brought it up. I mean, I feel like we haven't talked about rest with a fitness person yet, but it's such an important component. It's it's the other side of it. It's the backside that's bringing up the rear, really important, and everyone forgets about it. And you're all about the recovery period, which I love. So just go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So basically, whenever, it's funny because I have clients that come to me and they're like, I want to work out 7 days a week, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, well, you need to go find another trainer then, because we're not doing that with me. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to get on my soapbox here and say that recovery, I can go on and on about it. People do not prioritize recovery. And a lot of times that's why they don't see kind of the progress that they want. And I think it's also just another myth that we're fed by diet culture and people who don't have the information, just take that and run with it. But just the fact that you have to just be grinding it out all the time is just so false. In the interest of non-science people, I'll try to make this as simple as possible. But essentially, when you're working out, you're tearing your muscle fibers apart, right? So that's kind of, I like to say that that's where the change happens, and then your recovery is where the growth happens. Because in the gym, when you're working out, you're tearing apart those muscle fibers. Your recovery days are when those muscle fibers are regrowing, bigger, stronger, more efficient. if you don't allow your body the time to do that and you work out day after day after day, you're just continuously tearing those muscle fibers apart. Pack nutrition onto that. Your body needs food to repair those muscles and to make them better than they were before. And if you're not eating and you're not resting your body, then it's almost like you're on like a hamster wheel and you're just like running in circles and you're not getting anywhere.
I love that hamster wheel. That's exactly what it feels like. And I feel like a lot of us have been in those moments where we're like pushing ourselves to get to the gym and repeatedly just like killing ourselves. I've never felt such exhaustion as I do when I've done that, like
Right.
to a whole new extent, especially if you're in a moment of disordered eating and you're not properly nourishing your body. I mean, it's just like exhaustion to a whole nother extreme, just physically, emotionally, everything. And so,
and you're risking injury too. I mean, that's how you hurt yourself, and then you're out for a lot longer than like if you took one rest day in between like heavy lifts.
Totally. So that's also why a lot of people kind of stagger their days as far as workouts too, right? I mean, instead of just doing full body lifts every day, that you can do legs, you can do arms. I mean, then you're giving yourself back and bi, chest and tri, whatever it is that you're doing. It allows those muscle groups to kind of heal, and you can still go to the gym, but it's also still important to give your full body those rest days and to hydrate and to get good sleep and to stretch. Stretching is huge. We should talk about that a little bit, actually. Like, why is that so important for
Yes,
lifting?
give me a stretching lesson, Miss Dancer.
Oh my gosh. Well,
you and I are like polar opposites. I can barely touch my toes. So
and I'm like back bending.
When you like talk about like dance identity and everything, that's like one thing that I'm like, I will not lose. Like I am determined to be 85 years old and still able to get down into a split. Like if I can do that, then I will be successful. Yeah, no, it's for muscle recovery. It's insanely helpful. There's lots of different forms of stretching. Foam rolling is such a huge one for releasing tension in your muscles. And then for just like extensibility, flexibility, there's like static stretching, which is like what you would think of as like touching your toes or something like that. But just in terms of preventing injury is huge. A lot of times, especially us being like right or left dominant, can build up muscle imbalances, and that can lead to injury. There's this cycle that's like the trauma to your muscle tissue, and basically it's like you build up muscle imbalances. There's a trauma to that muscle, then you're going to compensate, and that muscle's never going to heal properly, and it's just kind of like this endless cycle. And stretching has been shown to play a huge role in kind of like intercepting that cycle and kind of turning it around, redirecting it. And that's a huge thing for recovery too. I mean, like I said, your muscles are putting themselves back together when you recover, and you want to treat them right. You want to fuel them with protein, water, and stretching.
So like anything with working out, anything surrounding fitness, there's so many different opinions and so many different right ways to do it or whatever. And I feel like stretching is one of those things that I've heard people be like, it doesn't have any benefits. You should only do it before, you should only do it after, like all these different confusing things. So what do you like?
Yeah. So, and yeah, there's tons of different opinions. I would say, whichever opinion you hear or you want to follow, just make sure it's substantiated by science and somebody reputable. But for me, with my certification, we're kind of taught that SMR, which is self-myofascial release, aka foam rolling, and dynamic stretching are really good to do before your warm up or your workout, because you're warming up your muscles. It improves blood circulation. And then after, you want to follow up with some static stretching. And the reason that I think static stretching is good to do at the end is because your muscles are already warm. And so they're more likely to be flexible, extensible, and less likely to be injury causing. But I don't know enough to say, don't do this, don't do this. What I do is all my clients do foam rolling and dynamic stretching at the beginning. Dynamic stretching being like walking lunges or some squats or just body weight squats, stuff like that, and then some static stretching at the end, which is like where you have the position, you hold it for 30 seconds, and like it sounds static, so you're standing there. Dynamic stretching, the walking lunges or whatever, you're moving, you're warming up those muscles, and then the foam rolling is you're releasing the muscle tension in your muscles. So that was a lot of science, but
No, I think it's great. I think a lot of people think it seems counterintuitive to be like, oh, I'm going to the gym, I'm literally tearing my muscles apart. Why would I stretch them more? And I think that they don't recognize it, like how important it is to truly get your muscles working, to get oxygen in them, to fuel them. I mean, it's all about that recovery. Keyword recovery, fueling your muscles and getting it to where it needs to be. So
absolutely.
awesome. All right. With that all being said, we want to transition a bit to intuitive eating, diet culture, your journey with all of it. I know you've talked a little bit about that, your eating disorder or disordered eating. So what has your journey been as far as being tender with yourself as your body grows and changes, especially from going from, the skinnier, longer, lankier dancer to the complete opposite, where you're just like, yeah, I feel strong, I want to put on more muscle. How have you been able to talk yourself through those huge changes with your body?
Yeah, so I kind of had my food journey has kind of been all over the place. In high school, when I had the disordered eating, it was on that extreme of like not eating enough. When I got to college and I had social life and got introduced to this funny thing called alcohol, I ate a lot. It was, it was kind of like I had restricted myself for so long, and it was almost like this I'm free kind of thing, and like dining hall food with just like unlimited. Oh my God, don't even get me started on unlimited meal plans.
That's what I had too.
Yeah, it's awful. And so I ended up, I think I gained probably 30 pounds between like year 2 and 3 of college. And I noticed that I was much lower energy. My self-confidence was just in the tank because all my clothes didn't fit. I didn't have the energy to do what I'd always had the energy to do. And, I was just tired all the time. I just really was not happy with where I was. And I was like, this was my third year. Yeah. And, I was deep into my major, and I was like, I cannot sit in these lectures and hear them talking about all this stuff and not put it into practice. I'm not happy with where I am, but I also knew that I couldn't go back to where I was. And so that's kind of where the education and the information came in of like, well, you know a lot more now than you did then. You need to do something different, but you need to not go back there. And that's kind of where I started. I didn't get my certification until a lot later, but just with school, especially with like the exercise physiology part of it, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start weight training. I'd never weight trained before. Wasn't certified. I did a lot of research on my own. Had to sift through a lot of information. Some of it was nuts, and you had to dig through to find the good stuff. But just kind of self-taught in that regard, and fell in love with it. I had seen more physical growth, like I said earlier, than I ever had with just like cardio and stuff. And I felt so strong, which made me feel so confident. And just, I think kind of not only the physiological change that I had with weight training, but also the mental change kind of drove me to want to keep doing it more. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I feel so good doing this. Like, let me freaking preach it to the world. Everybody go grab a dumbbell. Like, let's go. And so, yeah, it was just kind of like this huge, not only physical, but mental shift of like, well, and that's kind of, my mantra with my business is strong over skinny. It's like, let's stop focusing on being as tiny as we possibly can and start focusing on being as strong as we possibly can. And in the end, your goals are probably going to align at some point, right? Like, I feel like physically, I am in the best shape that I've ever been. And that's not like to sound vain or anything, but that's just to say that like, I had to get over the kind of idea of like, well, I have to be as skinny as possible. And I had to kind of reframe that mindset of like, let me get strong and let's see what happens. And I will never go back. My cardio is restricted to my group classes. I love it. I love my girls in there, but otherwise I'm going to be lifting weights because that's just what makes me feel the best, what makes me feel the most confident and the most strong. So.
And it's awesome. So when you get there, it's like, oh, feeling strong is so much better than feeling skinny. In my opinion, some people might think something else, but it's like it's truly a whole new ball game when you're sitting there and you're like, I just like, I feel strong. My bones don't hurt. My back doesn't hurt. Like I don't hurt. I feel
I can
good.
do anything, you know, like
Yeah.
there's, you know, I can do anything. And that's cool because, you know, my mom lives, or my parents live in Georgia, and I'm here in Virginia. And just to kind of, I see them every couple months, and they, you know, comment on like, wow, definition, or, you know, your arms look so strong. I'm like, heck yeah, they do. Like they never looked like that before. And it's really cool to kind of, yeah, feel that change from everywhere, from within and from other people too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. I mean, I hope that there are other ways to get that back too, because I just recently, like 3 days ago, quit my gym membership because I started doing yoga with Sav. And so I did the core power yoga thing, and it's kind of expensive. And so when I signed up for that, I was like, am I really using my gym membership? It's just like this 24-hour gym that's 2 seconds down the road for me. And I liked it for a while, especially during COVID. There was like no one in there.
Yep.
And I just walk in and I just hate it because it's crowded. There's a lot of like grunt guys, and I just like wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I feel bad because I want to enjoy it, and like I like lifting and I like that strong feeling. I just don't like the environment of it anymore, and I'm struggling with that right now.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, yoga is no joke. I mean, I had a client who was a yoga instructor, and she was so stinking strong. So don't discount yoga. And also, I think it's important to realize that maybe you are burnout and to try something different. Like I'm always a proponent of find something that you like. It doesn't have to be, you know, what the next person likes, what your fitness influencer that you follow on Instagram does. Find something that you like, that you can sustain, and that works for you. And I think if you can kind of meet those things, then you're all set, because burnout is a big thing. And if you're not enjoying it, you're not likely going to keep up with it. That's just what I've learned. Trial and error.
I love that you give that tip. It's so true. That's what happened for me when I used to lift consistently in like my junior year of college, and then I felt that burnout 100%. And so I started doing yoga and started teaching. And there's also the stuff, when I first took Jess to class, we did a sculpt class. So it's combined with weights. I mean, it's not a joke. It's freaking hard. And there are so many ways to find that strength, like you said. So I love that you said to find what works for you.
If you are miserable in the gym lifting weights, like no one is forcing you to go in there and lift weights. Find something else that you like to do. I think it's so crucial for people to know that if you like it, you're more likely to stick with it. And that's what's important. You know, go rock climbing, or, you know, it doesn't have to be strictly in the gym lifting weights. It can be in so many other forms.
Yes, that's good. That's good. And I'm glad that the fitness industry is so saturated, because sometimes I feel like I go through different workouts faster than I go through boys. Like it is like I've tried Orange Theory, I'm doing yoga now, like weightlifting, the Peloton, like literally everything. And I'm always so gung-ho about it at the beginning. I'm like, yes, I love this. This is great. I found the next best thing. And then 6 months later, I'm like,
you know what I found that helps me is like that variety though, because I'm the same way. I've stopped judging myself as to like, I don't know, maybe I can't get in the gym like consistently, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for a run today, and then I'm going to go do yoga, or I'm going to go to the gym. Like that variety, there's not enough people speak to that either. Like the variety really is important as well. So
I mean, yeah, here in Charlottesville, there's so many like different hikes and stuff. Like some of the hikes are freaking killer. Like my glutes are more sore after a hike sometimes than they are with like a heavy leg day. And like sometimes you just need to get, it's a beautiful day, you know, get outside. Maybe I don't want to be in the gym, but there's other ways to kind of do that.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say to someone who's like just getting into something like this, just starting their journey, maybe someone who has recently realized that maybe they don't have the most healthy relationship with food, they're looking for a life change? Like what's some advice that you would give them, because it can be intimidating?
Yeah, I think I can't stress enough the importance of substantiated information. And I would say do your research, and if there's something that you don't understand or that you feel overwhelmed by, ask questions, but make sure you're asking it to a credible source, because there are people online, we all know them, that call themselves fitness influencers, and those of us that are certified and that know the science are like, please, for the love of God, stop telling people. People are, I mean, it's a responsibility that you have online. When you have this huge following, you have a responsibility to give people the right information. So I would say, do your research, ask questions, make sure you're asking them to the right people, and do something that makes you feel good. Do something that you love. If that's like the most unpopular, most hated workout, but you love it, like, and you can keep up with it, do it. Who cares? Every single person, every single body is different. Every single workout's going to be different. I would say find what you love, and then also give yourself grace and be patient with yourself. It takes a long time, and baby steps. Set small little goals that add up to big goals. That was like a lot of tips, but
no, those are all great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's Sav's mantra too, is give yourself grace. She says it all the time.
Yeah, I love it. My mom would say that. My grandma, I grew up listening to all of them say that, and I think it's, when I was a teenager, I was like, okay, whatever. But now it's like it makes sense. You're not perfect. Every day is going to be different. Every workout's going to be different. Just
you're like, I get it now. That's how I feel.
like, oh, she actually like said things that make sense.
Who knew?
Yeah, right?
That's awesome.
I have this dish that my mom actually gave me that says, OMG, my mom was right about everything. And I like keep all my earrings in it and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
No, don't say that. My mom listens. I'm going to get that as like a Christmas present.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, we have a couple questions that a lot of viewers are always interested in, especially when it comes to nutrition and fitness. So what are your favorite quick, like go-to snacks on your busy days? Like what can you just like grab and take with you?
Yeah. I love protein bars. I've had a lot of trial and error with protein bars. Some of them I think are disgusting.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So I finally found one that I love. So that's like a big thing. Same thing with protein shakes is I've had to find ones that I like, which, everybody's going to be different in that regard, but I have found some that I like, there. And then I eat a lot of fruit, which isn't great for like nutrition, like protein and stuff, but that's like my sweet tooth kind of thing. So like at night I'll have like berries and cream or berries and honey. I keep lunch meat, just like the rolls of like turkey. And that's like a huge thing where if I'm in a hurry, I can just grab and go. And then it's like some quick protein there. I need to get better about meal prepping. I was good at it at one point, and then COVID and just, but I need to get better about that. But I love like prepping veggies, like sweet potatoes and stuff, which is just like easy. I feel like, and everybody says this, but it's true. Like the more you can prep, the more likely you are to eat healthy. It's easy to grab like chips or whatever, but if you have something prepared, then you can't really make any excuses for not grabbing that. I think it's another thing. It depends on what you like. It depends on what your goals are. I love the Dave's Killer Bread protein toast with like some peanut butter on it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Those are all great. Great snacks, quick and easy. People need them. Everybody's so busy. It's just like, it doesn't have to be that challenging though. So always great snack ideas are amazing.
No, that's good. I actually have to go to the grocery store. I've been really bad. I realized it today actually, but I realized it, this is just a sidebar. The last 4 days, I like have only ate dinner, like a big dinner.
No.
I know it's really bad, but like I go to work, and then it's like a really busy morning at work, and I'm just like running around, not even thinking about food. And then I'm really hungry, but then I only have a couple more hours at work, so I'm not going to leave and go get lunch.
Right.
And before I know it, I'm like eating this giant dinner. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh my god. So my friend and I, she actually, it's a crazy story. She won this free trip to Cabo, and she took me with her. And
it's amazing.
I was like, when are we gonna eat? When are we gonna eat? And so she was making fun of me. And so now, like anytime we're together, she's like, are you thinking about your next meal or whatever? I'm like, yes, I am. Thank you very much. It's like, I have this phobia. Oh, it started because we were running late for our flight. And I was like, I have to get food. Like,
yeah,
Webby, like get over it. Like, let's go onto the plane. But I have this phobia of being hungry and not having food. And so that's like this.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a real thing. I will be late for my flight. I will miss my flight to make sure I have food.
Yes, dude, for real. That comes from your muscles too.
Yeah.
muscles are like, girl, we need the fuel. We need.
Yeah.
I remember my brother and sister-in-law, when they were really into CrossFit, they were like that too. Like we joked about it as a family, like how vicious they would get.
Oh, hangry is an understatement for me when I'm hungry. Like, stay away from me. I'll burn everything down if I don't get food. Like, it's bad.
Your boyfriend's like, here you go.
Yeah, he's like sliding it under the door, like, nice.
My family calls it World War III whenever I'm about to start an actual war. It's a real thing, 100%.
Me and my boyfriend have had actual fights, like arguments, because he tries to take my food. And I'm like, honey, I will share everything else with you. Don't touch my food. Like,
Jolie doesn't share food.
I don't play with my food. He is like, if I ask him to get me, like the other day, I was like, I want a milkshake from Chick-fil-A, and he was picking up Chick-fil-A, and he got one for me, and he was like, can I have a stick of that? I was like, if you wanted some, you could have ordered some yourself. Like, this is mine.
I love
like,
that.
I need all of this. This right here, this is fuel.
For sure.
That's awesome. Well, why don't we just go ahead with the weekly challenge? We had talked about it before, so if you want to go ahead and announce that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so we touched a lot on recovery today and the importance of that. So I think a good challenge would be prioritize recovery, and whether that is reevaluating how you're fueling your body, whether it's drinking water or take 15 minutes a day to stretch. You can get a foam roller for like $10 at TJ Maxx. Like, grab a foam roller and try stretching. So yeah, I would say prioritize this week recovery and see what you can do and see how much better you feel with that.
Yes.
Love that. We're so happy to speak on this.
Yeah, I could talk for hours on this. So
yeah. Well, we're so happy to be able to talk to you about everything. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in and following along. You can find Wehbe on Instagram. We'll put it in the show notes. And again, it's WEHBELEE 16 to engage with her and her community, and maybe even work with her as a trainer if you're interested.
To become a part of our family and community, join us on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or all the other platforms at And a Diet Soda, and we will see everybody next week. Thank you so much again. We love talking with you.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks for listening. We hope you were able to give yourself a little love today. You deserve it.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and check us out on social media for weekly conversations and attainable challenges for your health.